All right, hello everybody. We're going to go ahead and go over some stretches at our workstation, and we're also going to address a standing workstation versus a seated, and then also a laptop situation versus a standard computer. So let's go ahead and go over just the ergonomics of how we should be if we are in a standing situation. So ideally we would like our ear to be directly over our shoulder in line with hip, and hip with ankle. So as we are working, we don't want to do this with our head. So we want to try to always keep our chin back. Remember that as our head comes forward, that puts a lot of strain on our trapezius. That's how we get some tension headaches. So we want to make sure that we're standing properly. If you can hyperextend your knees and you can lock them back, that's going to tilt the hips forward, shoulders forward, and that's going to aggravate your upper body as well. So having soft knees is really important. If you have shoes on versus no shoes on, if you do have plantar fasciitis or you're prone to different issues with your feet, I would definitely recommend having shoes on while you're at your workstation. They also talk about a 3-to-1 ratio or a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every hour you're standing, you're seated for an hour, and then you gradually work up to 3 hours standing, 1 hour in the seated position. So in my workstation, I want to make sure that my forearms are supported as much as possible, and that the monitor is going to be at my head height. In the seated position, you want to make sure that your feet are flat on the ground, and that same situation where my forearms are going to be supported, and then also the screen is going to be at my eye height, so I'm not looking up or looking down. If you are wearing glasses and you tend to look up to see through the glasses for your vision, make sure that you have the monitor so you don't have to bring your chin up or chin down when you're doing that. The other part is if you need a little more support. So I've actually have just a piece of wood, but you could use a book or something like that, that to support my wrists, I actually put underneath my keyboard, so I have more of my forearms supported when I'm in the up position. So you can play around with different things. If your screen is too high or too low, prop them up on books as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about the 6 different stretches. So if I'm seated position or standing, it doesn't matter. The 6, and this is working from our head down to our toe, would be the neck stretch. So we're just relaxing our ear to our shoulder. And then you can play around with different positions with the head up or looking down towards the shoulder. And you want to hold each side for about 30 seconds or so. Chest as well. So I like this one because it also gets the rotator cuff as well. Elbows by my side, and I'm just bringing those arms back. All right. Or I could also interlace my fingers and stretch out the chest as well. The next one is definitely the wrists, right? So we're in this position all the time with that flexion. So getting our wrists stretched out in different positions is also important. If I'm in a seated position, I can go ahead and I can put one ankle on top of my knee and I can relax forward. And that's a great glute stretch. And of course I can do the other side too. I don't know if you can see me. It looks like that. And coming forward. And then I can also extend my legs out straight. So I can do this from a standing position where I'm just relaxing forward and I'm stretching out my hamstrings, the muscles on the back of the thighs. And if you have time for that 6th one, that hip flexor stretch. So one leg is back, and as I bend my lead knee, I'm going to feel a nice stretch in the hip. So those are just 6 stretches that you could definitely do every day if possible. There's also a lot of information now about Zoom meetings as far as why they are so exhausting. So I don't know about you, but yeah, you're just like, oh my gosh, why am I so tired? So they suggest that you turn your camera off so you can listen and not worry about what you look like on the screen. And that tends to decrease the fatigue part of it too. Or move, right? So you can still listen to Zoom meetings and you can still add some movement. So if you're on your phone, that works as well, and you can just still listen. The other part that I wanted to talk about really briefly would be the laptop situation. So we have our laptops versus our regular computer setup. So we know that it is virtually impossible to have our laptop, the screen, to be the same height, right, or to be at our face height, and our wrist to be supported. So what I suggest is that you would get a keyboard, and they're not very expensive. Order a keyboard so your screen can be high, and then you have an additional keyboard, right, that you plug into your laptop that's separate. So you can have your arms still rested, right, whether I'm in a seated position or a standing position, and then I could have my laptop higher, so it could be at my eye height, so I'm not straining my neck. So I hope those tips helped. Feel free to email me if you have any specific questions, and have a great rest of your day.